Okay. Hi everyone, Jordan Ray here, jordanray.com, making more Google Apps scripting videos. A couple weeks ago, I made a kind of a video about the upcoming season of Game of Thrones. Don't worry, in this video, I'm not going to release any spoilers. I'm not talking about what actually happens in the episodes. So if you're not caught up to episode 5 yet, don't worry about it. This is just a quick video where I want to demonstrate a question that Cheryl asked me through email. Cheryl was another Google innovator contacted me. I think I met her through that, but she asked me this question about finding and replacing values with Google Apps Script, which can be a little difficult. She found a way that is not very performative. It involves grabbing every single cell, reading the value, and then writing a new value to the cell. I'm going to kind of demonstrate a way to do that without grabbing every single cell one at a time. You can do it all in one big bulk update. So let's take a look at the spreadsheet. I've hidden the emails. I just kind of shrunk down the column. But what we're actually going to be doing is removing the domain from these values without using, obviously we could go find and replace and replace with. That's an easy way to do it, but let's say we wanted to do it through code. Let's say that the purpose of this channel was to write Google Apps Script code, and we wanted to do it that way. Why not? Let's all just play pretend. So I'm going to just call this find and replace. And let's create a new, it hasn't even saved yet. Give the Google some time to catch up. Okay. Function find and replace. We won't pass any parameters. If you wanted to make this a little more reusable, you could pass in parameters to it, perhaps. Maybe the value that you're looking for. Those things are up to you. But the first thing we need to do is grab the range of the spreadsheet. So I'm going to call this range, and we'll just go spreadsheet app.get active spreadsheet, and then we're going to get data range. That grabs all of every row and cell that is used in your spreadsheet. Then we're going to get the values, and we just call range.getValues. Get values. And then at the very bottom, let's declare another variable called found. And we're going to go through every value. But first we need to go, because of the way that Google Apps Script, in fact, let's look at it here. Logger.log values. And, I got to give myself some permissions, do my own code. And I do authorize myself to find and replace. So let's take a look at this. Obviously there's no my function. We got to run this one more time. And now we should be ready. We can look at this thing. So you've got this array. That's the first bracket. First square bracket represents the whole array, and then everything inside of each of these other brackets is going to be a row, right? So from the second bracket to another bracket, which is even more confused because in the column names I put brackets. Oh no, that came from the forms itself. From the form itself, it uses brackets, but let's not worry about that. Okay, not the greatest explanation, but hopefully you'll see more of what I'm talking about as we go here. So let's call this found, and we're going to go through every value. We're going to map through it, and map takes a function as a callback, and it's going to do something to every single row. So I made it full screen on accident, but it actually looks better that way. So we're going to do something to every single row. And in every row, we've got every single one of the cells And so let's actually iterate over every single one of those cells, and we can do that with a reduce function. Now, I'll put links to the documentation for these methods in the comments and on my website, blog, whatever, what have you, where you can read more about them. Really, they can be super complicated to get started with, but once you get the hang of them, they're really, really powerful. Reduce also takes in a function as a callback, and we need 3 of the parameters from that function. I'm just going to put in the stub. And yeah, let's write those in. So it takes an accumulator, it takes the cell and index. So this is our callback that reduce takes, but reduce also has a second parameter, and it's going to be, it can be anything really. It's your starting value for what's going to be returned. It could be a number like 0. Maybe you're like aggregating numbers in some kind of way. It could be a string. You could just start with a string and then concatenate a bunch of things onto it. It could be an object. You can just add parameters. But in our case, we're using an array, which is a blank array, because that's how our spreadsheet is represented, right? With these arrays. So let's put some code in there, some logic to manipulate what we're doing here. So we need some logic. We're going to put an if statement, and at the very bottom, we're going to return the accumulator, because what we're doing is we're going to manipulate this accumulator and then return it and then go on to the next row. It's super complicated. Makes sense once you do it a bunch of different times. So in our if statement, we also need to return the accumulator. If we're not going to modify anything, then we are going to return the accumulator with the index equal to the cell, right? So that's the exact same value that came in. We're just going to put that back out there. And what we're going to do is if the cell cell.index of and has the @ symbol, and it equals -1. Now this means it does not have an @ symbol. So we know email addresses have an @ symbol. If it does not have the @ symbol, we don't want to do anything to it. We just want to leave it alone. Now you could write a more specific way to find email addresses. Let's say you had a bunch of different cells, emails. You can refine this. But the point is, this is where we are going to, this is where we're going to do our check to see if we want to do anything. And if it doesn't have an @ symbol, then we don't want to do anything. So we just basically end right there. Now below this if is where we'll do our modifications to that to this index. And here we want to actually go cell. We're going to split it at that @ symbol, and we're going to take the 0 element, the 0 index of that split. Because so the way split works is you get the first element, or the 0 index, everything to the left of the @ symbol, everything to the right of the @ symbol is going to be the 1 index. So if you just wanted to grab domains, you could actually put a 1 in there. So we're then going to save that into the accumulator at the same index and then return it. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. I think we're going to need to make another modification when we test this, because there are dates in there, and those get passed in as objects. So we want to skip those completely. Those don't affect us at all. So we want to make sure we can skip those with type of cell equals, actually does not equal string. And then or. So if either one of these is true, if it's, boom, if it's going to look at this and say, if it's not a string, I don't care. I'm going to do this and return. Okay, it is a string. Does it have an @ symbol? No. I'm going to do this and then return. Okay, so both of these are false. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to split that cell. Going to take the name, return the accumulator, and we are done. So let's take a look at this found. Let's see what we have. And we should have a giant array that looks very similar to what we started with. Yes. And let's see if we can find a username somewhere in here. It's hard to find because, there we go. Boom, there's just a username, no domain on there. Now, all of that has happened in code. We haven't actually affected the spreadsheet at all. To write it back onto the spreadsheet, we're going to grab that range variable we defined. We're going to set values, and we're going to pass in found. Because this is an array that's exactly the same size and shape of values, so we can just pass that in because it's going to match the range perfectly. So basically, we've taken all the values into our code. Then we have manipulated them in code without writing or going back and forth with the spreadsheet, and then we're going to rewrite them onto the spreadsheet. So let me save and run that. I'm going to exit full screen so we can take a look. There we go. It did take a couple of seconds, but nothing unmanageable. 80 lines of spreadsheet. And there we go. So I'm going to minimize these again. Let's undo. Oops. Undo one more time. So then we've got the email addresses back. Let's run it one more time. Let's just see how long that takes. And I don't know, 2-3 seconds. Not too bad. Because the only 2 times you're manipulating the spreadsheet itself are on lines 3 and 17. Now, if you loop through and then you try to do all of that logic in here, it's got to touch the spreadsheet, come back, touch the spreadsheet again, and you've got this kind of back and forth, and all of that is much more labor intensive than doing it this way. So that's what I found to be a lot more performative. I hope that helps you. I know map and reduce are super complicated concepts with JavaScript if you're new to JavaScript, but they are super powerful, and I really, really encourage you to learn them. I'll put links in the description. So take a look out for that. Cheers. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, find me on my website, jordanray.com, and I'll talk to you soon.